Randy White's life today is indeed marked by sadness, but not for the reasons you might think. The Hall of Fame football legend isn't struggling with health issues or financial troubles. Instead, he carries the profound grief of a grandfather whose family was torn apart by a single counterfeit pill. His son-in-law, Jesse, took what he believed was a standard painkiller for knee pain. It wasn't. The pill was laced with fentanyl, and it killed him instantly. But from this devastating tragedy, White has found a new purpose that's both heartbreaking and inspiring. The same ferocious determination that made him the Manster on the football field now fuels his crusade to save other families from experiencing the same nightmare. The tragedy blindsided White completely. In a moment of raw honesty, the Hall of Famer admitted he had no idea what fentanyl even was when doctors told him it killed Jesse. When they said Jesse died from fentanyl, "I never heard of fentanyl," White stated. "I can honestly look at you and I don't live in a closet, but I didn't even know what fentanyl was." This admission reveals a grandfather grappling with a preventable loss, forced to learn about a crisis in the most painful way possible. White now helps raise his grandson, a daily reminder of the life lost and the family forever changed. As he explained, when you go through it firsthand, you don't want to see it happen to anyone else. The grief of his family became fuel for a public crusade. Channeling his pain into action, White became a central figure in founding the Coaches vs. Overdoses initiative in 2022. The program's structure reflects his uniquely athletic mindset, applying the same principles of preparation, targeting, and relentless execution that defined his football career. He wasn't just raising awareness. He was implementing a specific targeted game plan against a defined opponent. The mission operates on three pillars: prevention, education, and awareness. The program's name frames the issue as a contest, and its core educational tool is fittingly called a prevention playbook. This playbook, distributed at high school sporting events, educates parents and student athletes about the dangers of misusing prescription drugs and the prevalence of fentanyl and counterfeit pills. A second key tactic involves distributing at-home drug disposal packets to encourage families to safely remove unused medications from their homes. The program's strategy leverages the unique ecosystem of high school sports, targeting a specific community where coaches hold immense trust and influence. White identified these coaches as the heroes in this, recognizing they're often mentors and parent figures to young athletes. The approach also targets a population at heightened risk, since student athletes have high exposure rates to prescription opioids due to sports-related injuries. Let me know in the comments if you knew about this incredible side of Randy White's story and what you think about his mission to prevent other families from suffering the same tragedy. The impact has been swift and significant. What began in a few dozen Texas schools in October 2022 expanded to 453 high schools across at least 5 states by late 2023, with the goal of reaching nearly every state in the nation. The program in South Carolina alone reached over 278,000 people, including more than 100,000 high school students. White's message is simple and born from painful experience. If your name's not on the prescription, don't take it. But this new fight represents just the latest chapter in a life defined by battles. Before becoming a crusader against fentanyl, Randy White was forging a different kind of war on the football field. His journey began at the University of Maryland, where he dominated as a defensive lineman. In his senior season of 1974, he swept college football's most prestigious honors for an interior lineman, winning both the Outland Trophy as the nation's best interior lineman and the Lombardi Award as the nation's best lineman or linebacker. He was named Atlantic Coast Conference Player of the Year, a unanimous first-team All-American, and even placed 9th in Heisman Trophy voting, remarkable for a defensive player. By the 1975 NFL Draft, White's identity was absolute. He was the nation's premier defensive lineman. This set the stage for a perplexing decision by the Dallas Cowboys, who selected him 2nd overall. The Cowboys' brain trust didn't see Randy White, the dominant lineman from Maryland. They saw a collection of athletic traits they believed they could remold into their next great middle linebacker to replace the aging Leroy Jordan. The experiment was a disaster. For 2 seasons, White was relegated to a backup role, playing primarily on special teams while struggling with his new position. The psychological toll was severe. He later described feeling confused by the position and then embarrassed. For a player who had known nothing but success, these 2 years represented his first encounter with professional inadequacy. He felt like the move back to his natural position was just like somebody took the handcuffs off and I could go play. The turning point came when White went directly to Coach Tom Landry's office and proposed moving back to the defensive line. In his Hall of Fame induction speech, White humorously recalled the moment he knew the linebacker experiment was doomed, trying to cover fellow rookie Tony Dorsett in practice. I knew my future was not going to be a linebacker because every time he went out for a pass, he caught a touchdown, and I was watching the back of his jersey running down the field. Those 2 years of struggle weren't wasted. They were a crucible that forged an overachieving mindset. The player who emerged in 1977 wasn't just the gifted lineman from Maryland. He was a man with a psychological debt to repay, pathologically driven to ensure he would never feel failure again. When the handcuffs came off before the 1977 season, the result was immediate and explosive. Moved to right defensive tackle, White transformed from a struggling project into one of the NFL's most dominant defensive players. In his first season as a starter, he made his first Pro Bowl and All-Pro team, signaling the arrival of a new superstar. The season culminated on the biggest stage in American sports. On January 15, 1978, his 25th birthday, White led the Doomsday Defense in dismantling the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl XII. The Cowboys forced 8 turnovers in a 27-10 victory, and White was named co-most valuable player with defensive end Harvey Martin. They remain the only co-MVPs in Super Bowl history. This breakout performance began an unparalleled run of excellence. From 1977 through 1985, White made 9 consecutive Pro Bowls and earned 9 All-Pro selections. In 1978, he was named NFC Defensive Player of the Year after recording a career-high 16 sacks. His playing style earned him his famous nickname. Teammate Charlie Waters dubbed him the Manster, explaining that anybody that can play the way Randy does has got to be half man and half monster. His intensity was legendary. He was a blue-collar worker on a country club team whose practice work ethic was so ferocious that even teammates suffered trying to keep up. Former Super Bowl winning coach Dick Vermeil said, "Randy might be the finest defensive player I ever coached against. He created a war on every snap." His production was staggering for an interior lineman. He finished his 14-year career with 1,104 combined tackles and 111 sacks. But his true value often didn't show up in box scores. He consistently drew double and triple teams, freeing teammates to make plays. His relentless pursuit was exemplified by a legendary play against Philadelphia when the 6'4", 257-pound tackle chased down wide receiver Scott Fitzkey 49 yards downfield to make a tackle. Through his first 13 seasons, he missed only a single game, showcasing superhuman durability. But even monsters aren't invincible forever. White's career presents a poignant paradox. A player whose legend was forged on near-invincible durability was ultimately undone not by one catastrophic event, but by slow, cumulative erosion. His decline began after his remarkable 9-year Pro Bowl streak. The primary culprits were chronic degenerative issues, shoulder surgery before the 1987 season, and a worsening bulging disc in his neck. By 1988, the physical toll was undeniable. The immovable anchor was relegated to a backup role, starting only one game. The neck injury became so severe he could no longer get into his signature three-point stance, a powerful image of a warrior physically prevented from assuming his battle-ready position. The final decision wasn't a choice, but medical necessity. On April 14, 1989, White announced his retirement. The gravity of his condition was revealed in a chilling quote. "When the doctors start talking about wheelchairs and partial paralysis, it's time to retire." This reframed his retirement entirely, not as a veteran gracefully stepping aside, but as a man preserving his future quality of life against dire medical prognosis. His departure marked the end of an era. White retired after 1988, also legendary coach Tom Landry's final season. White's retirement announcement came just 2 months after Jerry Jones purchased the team and fired Landry. The exit of the Manster, the last great link to the doomsday defenses of the 1970s, marked the definitive end of an iconic era in Cowboys history. The arc of Randy White's life testifies to unyielding resolve manifested in profoundly different arenas. The same relentless motor that drove him to overcome linebacker constraints and dominate for a decade now drives him to travel the country as a grandfather and advocate, determined to wring meaning from unspeakable loss. The man who once inspired fear in opponents now seeks to inspire awareness and prevention in a new generation. The blue-collar worker persona that set him apart in the glamorous Cowboys world has found ultimate expression in grassroots, community-level foundation work. He evolved from the Manster into a mentor, trading trenches violence for the vulnerability of sharing his family's story. While his bust in Canton immortalizes past achievements, his work with Coaches versus Overdoses actively shapes his future legacy. Randy White's final measure may not be the Super Bowl ring, 9 Pro Bowls, or gold jacket. It may be found in the quiet, unquantifiable metric of lives saved, teenagers who heed his warning, parents who clean out medicine cabinets, families who don't endure the same sudden, shocking tragedy that befell his own. His ultimate victory, pursued with the full measure of his famous intensity, will be measured not in sacks or tackles, but in the prevention of sorrow. It is the final and most important war of his life. If this story moved you, please subscribe for more inspiring tales of athletes who've transformed tragedy into purpose, and share this video to help spread awareness about Randy White's life-saving mission.